Hey, Beastista here, and welcome to week 7 of the VDL Crew battle. This week we're playing against King Squad, and the specific coach we're playing against is King Sosa. So far, we've been doing very well this season. I'm currently 6-0, and our crew is currently like 10-4, something like that. We are first place, just barely, and we hope to continue doing well. And winning here will definitely improve our chances of being able to get first in crew. On top of that, I'm actually the top coach right now out of all the crews. Um, so I'm doing pretty well with my 6-0 start. So here is the matchup. So looking at the matchup, they have a couple noteworthy things. First, they have the sand mode with Hippowdon and Lycanroc, in which I have no way to outspeed Lycanroc in the sand. Booster energy, Screamtail, can't really outspeed it. I don't have Prankster. So that's definitely a little bit of a concern. However, on the plus side, they also kind of have a little bit of maybe not a flaw, but like a exploit that I can focus on, which is their team is very physically leaning. They have a couple mons that could be special, that are mainly physical, but their only real physical mon is Florges. Everything else is more physically leaning. Like Honchro could technically be special, Arcanine could technically be special, but for the most part, that definitely helps me with EV training, making my team a little bit more physically bulky, possibly having a couple moves like Bulk Up or Iron Defense or Coil that can help me take physical moves even better. On top of other than that, though, some of the biggest threats are the Sand Mode, like I mentioned. The Annihilate is just an absurdly powerful mon, and then Arcanine is just really good. Burns through my team can be really annoying, and Flare Blitz can do big chunks of damage to most of my team. And with that, this is the team I ended up bringing. So first, we'll start with kind of the first three mons are kind of what I would consider my rain core. So my main idea of how to deal with the sand mode is to set up rain. Setting up rain, one, neutralizes the speed from Lycanroc. It also increases the damage of water type moves. And one thing I didn't mention in the previous variation is they actually have 0 water resist on their entire team, which means a more offensive Vaporeon in the rain looks very good because I can do huge chunks of damage with the rain boosted Muddy Waters Hydro Pumps. And nothing can switch into it, and the only way they can resist the move is by tearing out of it. And then on top of that, three of the Pokemon that I expect to see that I'm somewhat concerned with in Arcanine, Lycanroc, and Hippowdon are all weak to water type moves. And in the rain, Terra Water, Muddy Water has a chance to one-shot all of those. So other than that, we also have a pretty standard Screamtail with the Thunder Wave as my main speed control this entire week. I considered like Tailwind on the Kilowatt roll, but I decided I don't think it was that super relevant, and I'd rather have Rain to get speed control within the Weather War, and then Thunder Wave to get speed control that way. Obviously, on top of that, Thunder Wave is just incredibly powerful at randomly making my opponents not be able to move. And then finally, we have Encore because I don't want to deal with like Bulk Up, Annihilate, or obviously just being able to punish a Protect or a Fake Out or a random non super effective move that they hit into a switch in can be really good. And so that's kind of the idea with the Screamtail and the Vaporeon. Both of them are Terra Water because they do not have much super effective moves for Water Mons. They don't have an Electric Mon. They don't have a Grass Mon, and I don't really expect them to run too much coverage in the type either. So next up in the rain mode, we have Kilowatt Drill. So Kilowatt Drill, as you can see, I have 3 moves that are directly relevant to having the rain up, and so hopefully I can get the rain up somewhat consistently because I have Hurricane, Thunder, which are both 70% accurate unless the rain is up, and then they're 100% accurate. And then I have Weather Ball, which is a 50 base power move that it becomes a 100 base power water move in the rain. However, unlike the other two, Weather Ball does also become powerful in the sand. So if I for some reason don't remove the sand and they keep the sand up, it does give me a 100% accurate 100 base power rock move if the sand is up, which is definitely helps a little bit. Other than that, we are competitive because they have Arcanine that can have Intimidate. Also, they might have stuff like Icy Wind. They might have stuff like, Rocked Tomb. So that, I think competitive is better, especially because there's very little expectation for me to that they're going to have a single electric move. So multiple doesn't seem that relevant. And Wind Rider, since I'm not setting up Tailwind, also doesn't seem too relevant. The only proc I would get is a switch in to like an Air Slash or a Brave Bird into the Honchkrow, which I don't particularly expect. Other than that, we are Charty Berry, so if they set up the sand, I can take a Rock Slide pretty comfortably or Stone Edge, and Terra Ground, so that if they do have the rocks up, I can take something like a Stone Edge into an Excel Rock if I Terra, and that puts me in a pretty reasonable position. So those are kind of my top, which is the rain mode, and my bottom part is what I would consider my physically bulky core, because like I said, their team is more physically oriented. So we have Rillaboom, Sandaconda, and Urshifu. So Rillaboom, we have Grassy Seed, gives the immediate +1 defense boost. So Rillaboom becomes very physically defensive. I also have a fair amount of physical defense investment. We have the Acrobatics Terra Flying, so we can do good damage into Annihilate and also, resist the Drain Punches. We have Woodhammer just for good consistent damage, one shots. A lot of their one shots to Sand Core. It does huge chunks of damage just because of the Grassy Terrain and 120 base power. And then we have the Stomping Tantrum to hit like their Steel Mons and things like that. Next up, we have Sandaconda. Sandaconda is very good into their Sand mode because it resists the Rock moves. It has Glare, which means we can actually paralyze Hippowdon technically with it, but also just get some speed control, some chances of activating full paralysis. We have Coil to get the defense boost because, as I mentioned, the defense boost was good because their team's really physical. And then it also gives me 100% accurate Stone Edges and Drill Runs, in which I'm EV trained to one-shot Lycanroc, Copperajah at +1 attack, and with Drill Run, and then Honchkrow, and with Stone Edge at +1 attack. And then we're Terra Normal. I didn't really have a Terra I care too much about, so it's mainly so I can be immune to Rage Fist. So in the situation we're in a late game, I can Terra and I should be able to win a 1v1 if I'm able to if I had a coil or two up before we get into that late game. And then finally, we have Urshifu with Terra Poison, as per usual. This one is a fairly bulky one for the same purposes, especially since they actually have a lot of possible fairy moves this week. Arcanine gets play rough, Lycanroc gets play rough, Copperajah gets play rough, and so Florges with Moonblast. So I definitely wanted a fairy resist, and pretty bulky, physically oriented with the bulk up to get the defense boost because their team is very physical, as I mentioned. And then we have a pretty standard Wicked Blow, Drain Punch, Poison Jabbing because we want to get a little bit of longevity with the Drain Punch, and we don't want to lower our defense and special defense with close combats. And then, but with that, that's our team. Like I said, pretty straightforward, just kind of a rain mode, a bulky physical defense mode, and hopefully we can get there. With that, let's get into the match. So here we are for game 1. So we were told about the Terra types. We know that Ursaring is Terra Fairy, Honchkrow is Terra Ghost, Hippowdon and Lycanroc are Terra Grass, and then Annihilate and Uxie are Terra Fairy. So lots of Terra Fairies and Terra Grasses, and then the one Terra Ghost. So one thing that we note is they don't have Arcanine, which is relevant because both of their sand modes are Terra Grass. It also means that Vaporeon, Sand, or Rain spam doesn't seem as consistent, and so I definitely decide Screamtail is kind of coming. So Screamtail was kind of always game 1 plan, no matter what, unless they seemed heavy Trick Room, and this team does not seem heavy Trick Room to me. They don't have like a Copperajah. And so the big question is what I want to pair next to it. And I thought Sandaconda looked honestly pretty good. And then Urshifu and then Kilowattrel on the back. I strongly considered, Rillaboom and Vaporeon instead of Kilowattrel on the back. I definitely think I bring Urshifu here as the third mon. But the reason why I like Sandaconda is I thought I can get a pretty clean Coil up. Just Thunderwave into a lot of their mons seems good. And so we got the Thunderwave and the Glare into the with the Sandaconda and look at the coils. And so that's kind of the idea with these. And so with that, let's get into the game. So they ended up leading Ursaring and Honchkrow. Definitely not what I would expect. And I just lead the Screamtail and the Sandaconda. And they end up revealing Unnerve Ursaring, which is really big, which means I can very comfortably Thunderwave into that spot now. If they didn't reveal Unnerve, I would have to basically be careful of Thunderwave because it could be Quick Cleave, but most likely Guts. And so here the clean play is just go for the Thunderwave into Honchkrow. And the big question is, do I want to Glare Ursaring or just want to set up a Coil? And I decided to set up a Coil because both of these mons likely are going to be physical, and my expectation is they probably just go for something like a Tailwind and an attack with Ursaring, or maybe even protect with Ursaring to get a so that actually probably not protect with Ursaring, but probably just go for an attack and a Tailwind, and so we can prevent the Tailwind from going first and possibly get a coil up. So we successfully connect the Thunder Wave into the Honchkrow. Now we should outspeed with my Sandaconda and get the coil up. However, they end up being faster with the Ursaring, which definitely surprised. That means they have a fair amount of speed investment into it, and they also outspeed the my Sandaconda with a Honchkrow, which means that Honchkrow almost certainly is Scarf because there's no way it should outspeed my Sandaconda while paralyzed unless it is Scarfed. However, Icy Wind does a reasonable amount of damage, but not the most, and I'm able to get a nice clean coil up. And then with the leftovers, it's ended up not being in the worst position. However, the double edge did do a pretty chunk of damage. So here we just go for the Thunder Wave into the Ursaring because lowering its speed since I'm gonna my speed lowered and increasing the chance of full paras is really good. And then we go for the Stone Edge, which is into Honchkrow, in which the Stone Edge should kill and should hit since we have the coil up, and I've trained specifically to get that kill. So we connect another Thunder Wave, and now Ursaring is a little bit slower. And sadly, they get through and double connect again with the Icy Wind, lowering both my Pokemon down to -2 speed and getting a crit onto Screamtail, which is definitely pretty annoying there. The -2 in Syndicon is not too big of a deal since they outspeed. However, as we can see here, we end up getting all the way down to 1 HP as we kill the Honchkrow. And so those EVs onto Screamtail are really big. Definitely really nice to have survived that turn, especially because I do kind of want to set up the rain so that we can for the 100% accurate Hurricanes and Thunders in the back. And so they end up bringing out the Annihilate here, and it's definitely unclear if I outspeed with Screamtail now that I'm -2, but I think there's a good chance since it's likely going to be bulky. And so here I decided to just go up the Rain Dance so that I don't have to deal with super inaccurate moves for the rest of the game, assuming that my Pokemon die. And I just decided to go for the Glare into the Annihilate because I think it's kind of the best way to, neuter its effectiveness. And also, I don't want to activate Rage Fist stacking because I kind of want to just deal with everything else and then kill Annihilate in the end game. So they end up protecting the Annihilate, which is very good for me because, if Screamtail survives the turn, because I can Encore it. So we just get the Rain Dance here, and they go for a double edge and decide to not target the Screamtail. And so my Sandaconda takes that. The Glare goes into the Protect. However, because Screamtail survived the turn, I feel pretty good about my position because I can just go for a Encore into the Annihilate spot. And Encoring into the Annihilate will make it completely useless and basically force a switch out. Obviously, this is assuming I outspeed, which is not guaranteed, but I'm fairly confident. And so here, the big question is Glare into Annihilate or go for like a Drill Run to Ursaring. I'm not sure I kill Ursaring with my attack because I'm expecting it to be Eevee-Light, so I just go for the Glare. And also, I have Ursaring in the I have a Urshifu in the back that can deal with Ursaring pretty well. So we get the Encore off, which is big. They end up failing the Protect, which is good for me, which means that I'm going to be able to Glare them if and the Ursaring gets a fully parad. So definitely a little lucky there because I'm sure they would have killed Screamtail or maybe even the Sandaconda. However, this is the first pair thus far of this game, and they've been paired since they've had a pair pretty much the entire game. But I'm gonna feel very good because now Annihilate is basically forced to switch out, and I'm going to go for the double up into the Ursaring spot because Annihilate, if they just stay in and Protect, the Protect is guaranteed to work this turn if they don't get fully paired. and so I decided to just go for the double up into that spot. Obviously, they could switch out the Annihilate, but I'd rather just attack because they could just stand and protect. They do in fact switch out the Annihilate, like I said, not too surprising, but not too big of a deal, and it ends up being Uxie, and we get the water pulse off into the Ursa ring, and we get a confusion. And so now they have like a 50% chance to be able to attack here, if that, because of the confusion and the para chances. And they end up getting fully parried. It's definitely a little lucky, but as I mentioned, it was honestly a 50-50 roll at that point. But obviously, it being lucky that I ended up getting the full para, or getting the confusion off actually with the water pulse. But once they are confused, this this makes it really unlikely for them to get an attack off. And so here I just go for the water pulse into the Ursa ring, and then I go for the glare into the Uxie, because I definitely want Uxie to be paralyzed so that we have these chances of full paralysis, and also guarantee we have speed control for the rest of the game. And then I don't know if Water Pulse does kill Ursa Ring. It looks like a roll here, but there's a good chance that Uxie outspeeds, as we see, and gets the kill on the Screamtail. And that's why we kind of wanted to go for the glare into the Uxie spot. So Ursa Ring snaps out of confusion, which is pretty good for them, and they get the double edge off, but Sandaconda survives. Such a big survival. I've survived many times on the second time I survived on like less than 5 HP. So definitely these EV trains and these leftovers definitely have been doing a lot of work. But I definitely feel very good now because they have two Pokemon, or all three of their remaining Pokemon are paralyzed. And though, and we kind of have similar HPs. And so here I decided to bring out Kilowattrel because there's not many turns of rain left, and I want to get my chances to get to the 100% accurate Hurricanes and Thunders off. And so here, the big question is do I want to Hurricane into the Uxie or the Ursa Ring? And I decided to just go in the Uxie because Ursa Ring seems like either is going to get killed by Sandaconda with an attack or is going to kill itself with a double edge. And either way, it's going to be dead. So get the damage into Uxie makes the most sense. So we get the Hurricane into the Uxie. It does a little bit under 50%, and then Uxie gets fully paired, which is huge. Now I'm definitely on the lucky side. And here they decide to just go for a Scary Face instead of a double edge, which is really good for me because one, I'm competitive, and so now I'm at +2 special attack, and two, it means because everything is paralyzed, my Kilowattrel still outspeeds everything on their field. And so though the rain is gone, I'm very happy with the +2 +2 Kilowattrel. And so now they bring out the Annihilate, and I feel pretty good because basically Urshifu in the back should kind of win this game. And so there's not much to do other than just go for the most damage we can. I decided to go for the Uxie with the Hurricane because I think I can 1v1 the Annihilate with my Urshifu in the back. And we also just kind of double up into that spot in case for some reason I miss the Hurricane or it doesn't kill, and go for the Stone Edge into the Uxie as well. Obviously, there's a chance I could Terra to prevent them from Rage Fisting my Sandaconda, but at the HP I'm at, it doesn't seem super relevant since Strange Punch could also just kill me at that range. So they end up tearing the Annihilate, which makes sense since they don't want to get hit by a Hurricane, which possibly would kill it. We end up connecting the Hurricane, which is definitely a little bit lucky, and kill the Uxie, and they just go for a Rage Fist into my Kilowattrel, which I take fairly well, and the Stone Edge gets redirected into Annihilate, which does a very good chunk of damage. We can definitely see that Annihilate looks like it's not super physically bulky, maybe a little bit more specially bulky, or maybe very offensive. I'm not super understanding of that Rage Fist damage calc, so we'll see. And so here we just go for another Hurricane. Don't want to really reveal any other moves. And then go for a Drill Run. The Drill Run should definitely, the double up should definitely kill. They just go for a Protect, scouting out some more moves, getting a little bit of leftovers recovery, which makes sense. But yeah, so by this point, I definitely think this game should be over, assuming, this game is definitely over because Urshifu in the back with Terra Poison, Poison Jab just kills Urshifu from this range, or Annihilate from this range. And so basically, it's just, are we going to win 3-0 or 2-0 at this point? And we should win 2-0. or 3-0 if um, Kilowattrel connects, because I expect Hurricane to kill from this range since it's at +2 special attack. And if not, the drill run's going to kill. So we connect the Hurricane, luckily, and it just misses out on the KO, but it gets the confusion. Definitely really lucky there on both getting the connect and the confusion. However, they end up attacking through the confusion and the para, which is pretty good. And with the attacks into it, the Rage Fist boost ends up killing the Kilowattrel. Sadly, I lose them on. However, Drill Run should kill here, as we see it does. So definitely pretty good. I'll say that that I got pretty lucky, but I also kind of put myself in positions to allow myself to be very lucky. They had all 4 Pokemon paralyzed that game, and I hit them with multiple moves that could cause confusion, and they also were confused. So definitely a very lucky hacks-induced game, but it was definitely part of the game plan, I guess. So with that, let's go to game 2. So we're here for game 2. So from game 1, we definitely want to lead Screamtail again. Screamtail seems very powerful. The Thunder Waves, the Encores were immensely disruptive. The Rain Dance was somewhat relevant as well. Confusions from Water Pulse was good. So we definitely want to lead Screamtail. And then, honestly speaking, I can imagine running all 5 of the other Pokemon on lead. They all make some amount of sense. And the big question is what do we expect to see them lead? And I had strong debates on kind of all of them. I was thinking that maybe I should just lead Vaporeon and set up the rain, do muddy water stuff, but we kind of talked against it because we know because Honchkrow is Terra or is a Scarf. It should outspeed my Vaporeon, and so it thought it maybe not be the best because you have the rain and then Thunder Wave, and then set up the rain. So we thought maybe something like Urshifu or Kilowattrel would be better. And I decided to kind of just stick with Urshifu on the lead because Urshifu is kind of just it's just my best mon. So we might as well just pick your best mon on the lead. And then we thought about Kilowattrel and Vaporeon. I really was considering Rillaboom as well. I can see an argument, honestly, like I said, this was really tough because all the mons just look good, and that's kind of it. And so I decided on Kilowattrel just because I wanted a little bit more speed, and the Vaporeon because I think it seems like it could be pretty good. And so with that, let's get into the game. So they end up leading the Hippowdon Ursaring, definitely not what I would expect to see. And I just lead the Screamtail and the Urshifu. And so with this, they set up the Sand, and we see that they have 2 physical attackers that are pretty slow. And so I think the idea here is to just, kind of abuse Urshifu's bulk up, get a defense boost, and be able to take their moves reasonably well. And then gets like Drain and Punch recovery. The big question is, do I want to set up the Rain to get rid of the chip damage and the Sand, or do I just want to Thunder Wave the Ursaring and start, increasing the chances of it not attacking because of Thunder Wave full pairs? And I decided to just go with the Thunder Wave into the Ursaring, increase my chances of getting full paralysis, and then basically just go with a bulk up into the Urshifu. And the big question is, do I want to Terra or not? So the big reason to Terra is that Ursaring is Terra Fairy, and it does learn Play Rough. And so because of that, I decide that there's a good chance that they have Play Rough on the set, and they might just Play Rough into my Urshifu. And so we Terra Poison, we get the Thunder Wave off into the Ursaring. Like I said, the speed control is not super relevant. It might be at some point, but it's mainly there just for chances of full paralysis. And we get the bulk up off. And at +1 defense, I should take attacks from both of these mon pretty comfortably. The Terra Poison could be a little bit awkward since they are likely going to go for a ground move. However, they go for a Fissure, which is super concerning. And they go for a Double Edge instead of a Play Rough. Which also means that my Terra was a little bit unnecessary. The Fissure was immensely concerning because that definitely is something that just can randomly kill my mon. So there's not much I can do about it except try to kill it. And so here I can't really Thunder Wave and Water Pulse isn't doing much. So I'm just gonna get rid of the Sand to prevent some of the Sand chip. And the big question is, do I want to Wicked Blow into the Hippowdon or go for Drain Punch into the Ursaring? I decided to go for the Wicked Blow into the Hippowdon to prevent this thing from getting too many fissures off. If we should be able to 2-shot it from this with the +1, and once it dies, we are in pretty good shape. Not because we don't want to get hit with fissures, because that could definitely randomly win them the game. So we set up the Rain, and we get the Wicked Blow off, and it does a pretty good chunk of damage, about 60%, and they reveal to be Citrus Berry. and it gets back up to about 50-ish%. And so it should be killed by another Wicked Blow, but definitely a little bit awkward. Happily for me, they do not go for another Fissure. They just go for a Rock Tomb. It crits, and then we get the full para. So definitely really lucky there. The crit was a little bit awkward because I was at +1, but here there's not much to do. We can go for the double up and or just do some damage. But I think just encoring the Hippo into the Rock Tomb so it can't Fissure is a good idea, and go for a Drain Punch to get a little bit of extra HP and possibly kill the Ursa Ring from this range. But like I said, I'm very concerned with the Fissure here, and I just definitely do not want them to click Fissure a single time because that has so much chances of randomly killing multiple Pokemon. So getting into position where we can lock it into, though an annoying move, definitely not a random winning the game move, is seems pretty good. And so so we get the Encore off successfully. And so here we end up getting the Drain Punch, and just misses out on the KO. I definitely was expecting or maybe hoping that it would KO, but just short. But we get up back up to pretty high HP, which is really nice. So they go for the Rock Tomb, which now, because it doesn't crit, doesn't do too much damage. However, we are at -1, and they end up going for a high horsepower into the Fu, which is pretty painful. So here, however, we are likely be able to get double KOs by just Wicked Blow and Water Pulse, and definitely puts me in a pretty good position. Definitely, one of the annoying things that we had so far is that the Terra ended up being not only not helpful, possibly even detrimental because of some of these things, but ended up not being the end of the world. And then they end up just before the Hippowdon dies, lowering my Screamtail speed. So now my Screamtail is basically at neutral since we had the speed boost, and then we're at -1. And so now something like Honchkrow in the back will outspeed me. And so they end up having Honchkrow and the Annihilate, and so definitely feeling pretty good. We have all 4 of our Pokemon, and so here the play is just go for the Thunder Wave to Honchkrow since it's going to outspeed. I'm expecting Urshifu to die here. It's probably going to hit by a Brave Bird or some other move from the Honchkrow, and I don't really want to switch in any of my Pokemon on the back into those moves because they're going to take a big chunk of damage. And so I decided to just stay in, and if they end up going for something like an Icy Wind, I might be able to take a hit. And I decided to just go for the Drain Punch into the Honchkrow, which is going to do the most damage, assuming it doesn't Terra, and it's going to give me a little bit of HP. And like I said, if they just go for an Icy Wind and something like a Rage Fist, I might be able to take it. However, they go for a Hurricane, which one-shots, or which kills my Urshifu for this range. Definitely unsurprising. Definitely a little bit surprising to see Urshifu or Hurricane at all, because but either they expected the rain or were a little bit wanted extra damage with, and it seems like a very complete special Honchkrow instead of like a mixed. So they end up going for the Rage Fist into the Annihilate, into the Screamtail, which ends up doing reasonable damage, but I should take another one of those pretty comfortably. And we just bring out the Kilowattrel since the rain is up, and it also threatens both of these with massive, super effective damage. So here, I think the play is just to go for a Thunder Wave into Annihilate and go for the Thunder into the Honchkrow. It seems very unlikely that they're going to Terra the Honchkrow, especially since I have the Kilowattrel out. And so I think just getting a guaranteed KO makes sense to me. And also, minimizing damage into the Annihilate until we kill it is also always a big deal. Preventing Rage Fist from stacking is kind of the main way to deal with Annihilate. And obviously, with Screamtail being out, they can't set up bulk ups and get damage boosting from that. And that's kind of the big, plus side of this Screamtail in front of this Annihilate. And as expected, they do in fact Terra Fairy the Annihilate, and we get the Thunder off, killing the Honchkrow. Like I said, this is completely kind of expected, and this is why we made our decisions. And we just get the Thunder Wave off into the Annihilate, and now everything in my field should outspeed it, and they will randomly get fully parried. Hopefully, at certain points, they go for the damage into the Kilowattrel, which makes sense. I think their plan here is just to hopefully kill all my damage and then just kill Screamtail at their convenience. So now the rain's gone, so we want to set up rain so we get 100% accurate moves. Because they're at -1, Screamtail, I decided to go for the Protect because I have a chance of missing, and I'd rather just get guaranteed damage before my Kilowattrel dies. And there's very unlikely that they're going to attack the Screamtail here. and they end up getting fully parried, which, like I said, I don't think this one ended up mattering too much. Like, obviously, it means I could have attacked, but here we just go for some good chunks of damage, and we go for the Hurricane and the Water Pulse here because both of these have a 30% chance of confusion. I actually have a very good chance of confusing them this turn, and we end up getting the first confusion on the first move. So definitely really big. And with the double connect, not the best damage, but it's almost 50%, and they're confused, so we might get a full para or a confusion hit, and they end up hitting themselves with confusion, so it ends up being really good for me. Like I said, that was really lucky, but there's about a 50% chance they got confused, and then after they were confused, there's a 50% chance that they don't attack because of the combination of confusion and full para. So they end up not protecting. We get a Hurricane off, and we get a Water Pulse off, and so now they're really low HP. Another Water Pulse probably kills, or pretty much any move does. And Annihilate ends up attacking through confusion and full para this turn and getting the kill on Kilowattrel. However, in the back, we have a pretty high, a pretty offensive leaning Vaporeon, which should be able to kill the Annihilate from this range pretty easily. So yeah, I will say that this game definitely, I'd say you could say my gameplay may be a little bit toxic or a little bit hacks inducing, but like I said, even though I did definitely hacks get a lot of luck in this game, I also kind of put myself in position to get a lot of luck. I paralyzed 4 Pokemon game 1, 3 Pokemon game 2. I hit them multiple times with confusion moves. So definitely, definitely a little bit toxic of a game, but also a little bit of a kind of just eventually bad luck is going to occur with the amount of chances the bad luck had to occur. Definitely a good match. Closer than it may have looked in both of those games. Full para difference, damage roll difference in both those games could have made them a lot closer. It's definitely a fun game, though. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching.